What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to another Week 10 preview and prediction. Two more games on the slate for all you fine people today, and let's travel to Dallas, Texas. The SMU Mustangs and the Pittsburgh Panthers have been among the ACC surprises this year. They both are undefeated in conference play, and this is a massive one to see who gets the leg up on trying to get into an eventual ACC championship game. This should be a fun one from Dallas, and we'll tell you everything you need to know about the Panthers and the Ponies here in just a little bit. But before we do that, you guys know, really quickly, just want to say thank you for all the love and support this channel continues to receive and that I continue to receive as well. If you want to help support me on this platform here on YouTube, biggest way you can do so, subscribe and ring the bell as well as watching this video. You want to do all three of those, especially if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am. Talk a lot of college football here on the channel, but as well as, just interact with the channel any way you can. Like, comment, share. It all helps support what I do here on YouTube. And if you want to follow me on another platform, go give me a follow on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it. It's at TailgateNate29, and I'm going to start posting some of my other field work that I do over there. Again, still trying to figure out that plan, but I hope to have a plan figured out by this weekend for all of you fine people to enjoy if you want to see what else I do within the sports media realm. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Pitt, I give you SMU. This is going to be a really, really fun one out of the ACC. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we're going to go through some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So we are first going to go through some keys when the Pitt offense is on the field against the SMU defense, and then we'll take a look at the Pony offense against the Panther defense. We'll go through sort of some final thoughts as well as some keys to the game, and at the very end, I'll give you who I think comes away a winner from Dallas in this matchup. Again, two teams undefeated in conference play. Someone has got to come out with a loss. Let's get into it now. Pittsburgh is undefeated in general. They sit 7-0 here on this season. Again, we're over halfway through the season now, getting into November, and this Pitt offense has been amazing so far this season. Eli Holstein, especially at the quarterback position, has been lights out here for this team. Overall on the season, if my stat sheet would load here it is 1,805 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 5 picks on around 65% completion percentage. He's got a ton of really, really good weapons led by the former Akron Zip, Kanata Mumfield. He's also got a guy by the name of Kenny Johnson. You also take a look at Sincere Lee, 3 really good wide receivers. But the guy that is the X factor here for this team, you even see it way down there at the bottom, is the final key I'm going to talk about here, is a guy by the name of Desmond Reed. Now, we'll talk more about him later. He is the primary running back for this team, 541 yards, but is also the team's second leading receiver and is second on the team in touchdown receptions, right behind another guy that we should mention there in Raphael Williams, coming out of the wide receiver room. But, overall, though, and this is a Pitt offense that doesn't turn the football over, but, time of possession is not their strong suit. They're not really on the field a lot. This is the Pitt defense that sees the field a ton, which I think is going to come into a factor here in this game, and I'll talk more about why when we flip it over to the other side of the football. But the big question for Pitt entering this game is there are some questions and some concerns with Eli Holstein at quarterback. Pitt is unsure if Eli Holstein is going to be able to play. Now, you go ahead and you take a look at what Holstein has done throughout the season. It's been amazing so far, right? And they're averaging around 282 passing yards per game. Holstein as a whole, probably there right in the 250-yard range. But you take a look at what he's done the past couple of games, he's been underwhelming. In the game they almost lost to the Cal Golden Bears, 133 yards and no touchdowns with 2 picks. It was by far his worst performance of the season, but he followed that up last week against Syracuse. Now we know the defense did a lot against the Orange last week, 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, and the offense didn't really have to do much, but Holstein still underperformed relative to how much this team had the football. 108 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. 73% completion percentage, but you want more if you are a Pittsburgh Panther fan. You're going to want more out of Eli Holstein or whoever happens to play quarterback, because it might not be Eli Holstein in this game. Nate Yarnell has gotten a lot of time this season. He has 26 pass attempts, has completed around 65% of them, or if you want to get more technical, he's 17 of 26 this year for 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, has not really thrown the ball downfield too much, and if Eli Holstein is not going to play quarterback again, it kind of sounds like maybe he's going to be a game time decision, or he might not even play in this game on the road in Dallas. Is the pass game going to be able to produce enough? Because this is an SMU defense that, when you look overall, has been fantastic. It maybe allows a little bit too many points for the yards that it does give up, but it only allows 4.8 yards per play, and the rush defense has been a brick wall so far this season. But that pass defense in the secondary is definitely where SMU is going to be vulnerable. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word for a second. It's where they're going to be vulnerable. I mean, you take a look there. Now, 12 of the 17 turnovers that SMU's forced have been picks, and 33 passes defended is a pretty darn good number there, but that's just how offenses have been able to attack SMU this season, has been through that secondary. And when you're just talking about finding a weak point, when you compare it to the SMU defensive front, yeah, the secondary definitely a weak point there for the Mustangs. And overall, third down defense good, the pass rush pretty solid, and it should be able to take advantage of a Pittsburgh offensive front that has been here and there so far this season. It's had some really good moments. It's had some not really good moments. But the thing about the SMU pass rush is it just hasn't really found that consistency so far this season. If it can find consistency, and it is in the face of Holstein, Yarnell, or whoever else happens to play quarterback for Pitt here in this game, it gets in the backfield early and often, it's going to be able to find success against this offensive front. I think more specifically on the right side, although I might be flipping that here in my brain. Got to do the L's. No, I'm pretty sure it's the right side, but again, don't quote me on that. The thing that you need to know, the pass rush has got to be able to find some consistency for the SMU Mustangs. And if they can force turnovers as well, again, Pitt is not a team that's turned the football over a lot this year. Again, only 6 times. That is under a turnover per game. SMU can provide pressure, force a couple turnovers, and that run defense continues to be stout. SMU's probably going to have themselves a pretty darn good day. But again, I mentioned it earlier, and I want to touch on it just a little bit more here. Desmond Reed. He is the X factor. Why? It's because of what he can do on the ground and through the air as well. Again, he is this team's leading rusher with right around 600 yards this season, and also the team's second leading receiver. For as much as throughout the nation we talk about dual threat quarterbacks, Desmond Reed is a dual threat running back. He is as much of a threat to run the ball as he is to catch the ball. He's got 25 catches this year. Again, 4 receiving touchdowns. They especially love to utilize him when they get in that red zone. Now, Pitt's got to be able to find their offensive rhythm. Holstein's got to be better, or Yarnell has got to prove his ability here in this game. But especially once they get into the red zone, Desmond Reed, I think, is really going to test this SMU run defense, and I think he can get loose with some of the way that SMU schemes their secondary there as well. Desmond Reed is your X factor on this side of the ball. If the Ponies can't contain him, well, it could be a long day for the Mustang defense. But the Mustang offense has really been able to find its rhythm. Almost 40 points per game, 443 yards per game after struggling in the early going, and the presumed starter coming into the year, Preston Stone, just was not impressing. Kevin Jennings was even having some of his struggles, but you could also just kind of feel that when Kevin Jennings was at the helm of this offense, there was a smoother flow to it. It found more consistency, and that's the quarterback they've decided to go with this year. Kevin Jennings has thrown for almost 1,600 yards this season, 10 touchdowns and 5 picks. Now, you do want to clean the turnovers up as a whole for this team here. They have lost 10 fumbles this season, have the SMU Mustangs. And if you're going to turn the ball over and give it back to this Pittsburgh offense, that is going to be a big no-no here in this game. It's not one of my keys here. Okay, I mean, kind of in a way is, and I'll probably hint on it when I talk about, again, that very final key at the bottom there, but you can't turn the football over. But other than that, this is an SMU offense that's been good. It's throwing the football really well, again, with Jennings. Now, there are some injuries, I believe, to this wide receiver core here. I don't believe that R.J. Maryland is going to be available for this game. I also don't believe Jake Bailey is going to be available for this game. I think I'm getting the name right. If not, please let me know in the comment section down below. But there are some injuries within this wide receiver core, and that especially is worrisome because, A, Jennings has found his rhythm. This is an offense that is humming with Kevin Jennings there. It is just consistent. It is hitting its passes, and it's ripping off some big runs through the likes of Brashard Smith, who you saw on the thumbnail slide there earlier. LJ Johnson has had some great moments, as well as Kevin Jennings, the quarterback. he has really been able to provide a spark with his legs as well, something that you don't really see Preston Stone do a whole lot, at least not to the degree that you can see Kevin Jennings do, right? So that's definitely a big factor in there as well. Jennings' dual threat ability, and again, just in general, finding his rhythm. But that's why I bring up the injuries in the wide receiver room, because much like this SMU defense, this Pittsburgh defense is weak in the secondary. And it's not because the secondary is weak, it is just the weaker part of their defense, and it's what other offenses choose to attack more, because the rush defense has been fantastic. Under 100 rushing yards per game allowed. Pitt's only allowing around 94 rush yards per game, and the defensive pressure is one to watch. They're one of the best teams in the country at being able to provide pressure to quarterbacks. When you go and you take a look at some of the quarterbacks, though, that Pitt has faced so far this season, and you go back and look, this probably, besides Garrett Green, is going to be their biggest dual threat test. Now, Pitt, I don't believe, let me go ahead and check. Pitt was able to contain Garrett Green okay in that West Virginia game. I think obviously they've gone a lot better now, but Kevin Jennings, I don't know if I'd necessarily want to say he's a better dual threat quarterback than Garrett Green. I think in some ways he is, in other ways they isn't. Overall, they're probably kind of even, but Pitt has not faced a dual threat quarterback, I think, as good as Garrett Green. Well, obviously, since they played Virginia. Fernando Mendoza is not a guy that's going to get outside and run. That's the quarterback at Cal. Neither is Kyle McCord. Well, again, you see, I say this Pitt secondary is the weaker part of the defense. It just forced 5 interceptions against Kyle McCord and returned 3 to the end zone. And for an SMU football team that turns the ball over a lot, more specifically by putting it on the ground, Pitt's definitely going to be able to take advantage of that. But I think the biggest key to watch for here is the battle in the trenches, right? This is an SMU team that really thrives by establishing that ground game. And especially with the injuries in the wide receiver room, they're going to look to do that more than ever here against what has been a stout Panther defensive front so far. That's going to be something interesting, as well as pass protection here on this side for SMU when they do have to throw the ball. But like I was talking about earlier, guys, I do think possession is going to matter a lot in this game. This Pitt defense is on the field so much. They're on the field for 36 minutes per game. That is their average through 7 games, and it's not just one game that has really inflated that number. It's been a ton of games where Pitt has lost the time of possession battle, and in fact, I think in pretty much every game this year. I don't have it in front of me, so I might not be correct on this, but that number would indicate that throughout most games this year, Pitt has lost the time of possession battle, but it also is going to affect SMU here, because if they keep turning the football over, Pitt could have the upper hand in possession. At least the offense will have it a lot more than they have been, or than they usually do so far this season. This is an 8 o'clock game Eastern Standard Time, and it's a shame it's on the ACC network. This one deserves to be nationally televised. Apologies, had to put the ranking for the Pittsburgh Panthers in there as well. And ACC network, I think most people have that now, but this is the game that feels like it should be on ESPN or ESPN2 or something like that, right? This is going to be a really fun game to watch. If you can tune into this one, I highly recommend it. But Vegas is taking the points here with SMU. 7.5-point favorite are the Mustangs. I don't think it's going to be that big of a margin, and that margin is probably due to the fact that they don't really know where Eli Holstein is going to fit in, right? Can he play? Can he not play? But SMU has also got injuries in the wide receiver room, and Pitt's defensive front has been stout so far this year. I think if SMU can hang on to the football, they're going to win the time of possession battle, and that is going to doom Pitt. And I think that's exactly what happens here. Look, I know the Mustangs have had turnover trouble so far this season. I don't think it is going to plague them as much here. Now, this is the Pitt defense coming off a 5, maybe even 6 turnover game, but at least the 5 picks. That could definitely spark this Pitt secondary, and it can make some plays. But I do think that SMU is going to run the ball a little bit more. And while I don't think they're going to find a ton of tremendous success, I think they're going to find enough to keep them going. And this Pony defense as well, I think the pressure will be a little bit more effective than the Panther pressure, not because it's better. The Pitt pressure is obviously better, but because Pitt has a weaker offensive front. The quarterback situation worries me here for this team, and as much as I've fallen in love with the Pitt Panthers this year, I got to go with the SMU Mustangs to stay undefeated in conference play and stay in the top echelon of running for an ACC title. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Oregon, Michigan's up next. Goodbye.